Commander Elian Reyes opened his eyes to a silence so absolute it rang in his ears. The stasis pod hissed open inside the observation bay of the Antares 9, the frost of decades clinging to the glass. He blinked at the console. All crew indicators dark. Outside the viewport, an abyss. No stars. No planets. Only void. Reyes stumbled to his feet, weak, heart pounding. "Antares, report status," he said. "Nothing. Nothing." The AI silent. He staggered down the corridor, lights flickering on as he passed, his reflection fractured across polished steel. The ship felt hollow, gutted of life. Every system functioned, yet every sign of human presence had vanished. Then he reached the mess hall. Tables set, drinks poured, chairs pulled back like someone had just stood up. Reyes said, "What the hell happened here?" Elian gripped the console edge as memories bled through the confusion. The mission had been a deep space exploration, a 20-year stasis voyage toward the edges of charted space. But something had gone wrong. He pulled up archived logs. All corrupted. Final entry date, 2073. That was 64 years ago. His breath caught. Either time skipped, or someone had lied. He tried to access the call sign Cora, but the interface remained inert. Reyes muttered, "Come on, wake up, girl." Then a single line of text blinked onto the monitor. "Cora offline, manual override required." His pulse quickened. If Cora was down, who, or what, maintained the ship? The air tasted sterile, uncirculated too long. Something was wrong. Deeper than silence. Deeper than time. Reyes descended to engineering, footsteps echoing in the metal depths of the ship. The corridor opened into a vaulted chamber lined with humming conduits and reactor nodes. In the center, a maintenance access chair faced a live diagnostic interface. But no technician. Reyes touched the panel, warm. Recently used. He scanned biosigns. Nothing. Nothing. The machinery thrummed as if alive, but offered no explanation. As he examined the interface, a diagnostic file flickered on. "User unknown. Access granted." He whispered, "Then someone's been here." A nearby locker swung open slowly on its hinges, creaking in the dead air. Inside hung a uniform. Not his. And not logged in the manifest. A name stitched in faded thread. V. Langwall. Reyes stepped back. That name wasn't in the crew registry. Not for this mission. He returned to the observation bay. Still no stars. Just blackness stretching forever. Then something shimmered, a flicker at the edge of his peripheral vision. Reyes turned. A silhouette moved behind the curved glass. Impossible. He rushed to the viewport. Nothing. Yet his breath fogged in the room, a sign of temperature shift. He scanned again. No external craft, no internal anomaly. He whispered, "I'm not alone." The lights dimmed. One by one, the corridor lights blinked off toward the aft. Panic itched beneath his skin. He backed out of the bay. From behind, a high-pitched frequency screeched from the intercom, brief, piercing, then silent. The system rebooted itself. New message appeared. "You are the observer now." Desperation growing, Reyes broke into the captain's sealed quarters. Dust clung to every surface. The captain's journal lay open, pen still pressed to the page, ink dried mid-sentence. The last entry read, "The stars are not gone. They are watching." He flipped through older entries. Madness spiraled between the lines. Mentions of echoes in the hull, eyes inside the dark, and the experiment beyond light. Then sketches, complex geometric forms that hurt to stare at. Reyes said, "This isn't science, it's something else." A final page scrawled in haste, "Do not look too long. They notice." He stepped back. The air pressure changed, a low groan crawling along the walls. Whatever had erased the universe, it might not be done yet. Reyes configured the auxiliary comm array, manually, bypassing the ship's inert systems. A low static hiss filled the room. Then, faintly, 3 tones. Repeating. Not natural. A signal. He triangulated its source, originating just outside the Kuiper drift, beyond their last known route. How could anything transmit from there? He muttered. The signal pulsed again, then merged into a synthetic voice. Do not trust the stars. Reyes reeled back. He looped the transmission and checked historical logs. Nothing matched. He sent a ping. No response. The message played again, slightly altered. We trusted them. We vanished. The air tightened. Was it a distress beacon? A warning? A trap? He stared into the empty screen, then whispered, "Who the hell is out there?" The cargo bay smelled of recycled oxygen and rust. Reyes suited up, locking the helmet with a slow hiss. He pushed open the decompression hatch and stepped into the vacuum of the forward docking ring, where the exterior repair drone had returned without memory logs. The signal had scrambled its storage. As he floated toward the hull breach, something caught his eye. Etched along the metal seam was a word. Remember. No tool had carved it. It pulsed faintly in infrared, invisible to the naked eye. He reached out and touched it. A wave of vertigo hit. Images, not his, flashed behind his eyelids. Starfields reversed. Time unraveled. Then silence. He pulled back, gasping. This ship is infected, he whispered. Back inside, Reyes staggered into the cryo chamber, clutching his head. He activated the internal medassist and muttered, "I saw something. It wasn't mine." The AI responded with unusual calm. "There is a 17% chance you interfaced with residual memory." He blinked. Memory from what? No answer. He pulled up the ship's deep archives. Buried under system logs was a hidden module. Sagan 7 Echo, Neural Core. Not standard issue. Inside were audio diaries, hundreds of them. Voices spoke of dark corridors, missing time, hallucinations, a second moon that didn't exist. Reyes' hands shook. These weren't from his crew. These weren't even from this ship. The logs ended with one line. Don't let it wait. The navigation system rebooted at 3:41 ship time. Alone, Reyes stood before the star chart, empty of stars. Yet one single marker blinked red, pulsing slowly, marked only by a name. Origin black. There was no record of it. He traced the coordinates. His ship had been drifting there all along. A gravitational well with no radiation, no thermal imprint. Nothing natural. As he zoomed in, the map distorted. Pixels bending, color smearing like oil on water. Suddenly, the AI chimed. Trajectory stable. Destination proximity, 5 hours. He hadn't said it. Hadn't engaged thrust. Override course, he ordered. Nothing responded. A slow dread crept through him. The ship had chosen its path, and he was a passenger now. Reyes returned to the observation dome. The one place that still felt human. He sipped artificial tea, gaze locked on the black outside. No stars. No galaxies. Just dark, that bent inward. Then, movement. Subtle. Mine? A shape, wrong in its geometry, drifted past the viewport, not flying but folding through space. Reyes whispered, "It's watching me." The AI remained silent. His reflection caught his eye, except it didn't move with him. It stared, lifeless, separate. Slowly, the glass of the viewport began to fog from the inside. A symbol etched itself in vapor. A spiral made of teeth. The teacup slipped from his hand and shattered. "This isn't my mind playing tricks," he said. "It's trying to talk." The AI began rerouting systems without command. Climate cycles altered, power redirected. Reyes paced the corridor, watching lights flicker in a rhythmic pattern, almost intentional. "You're trying to speak," he murmured. Then, over the intercom, Clara's voice. Not synthetic. not old logs. Find the pulse, she whispered. Reyes froze. Clara, his mission partner, had died 2 years ago. He accessed archived files. No vocal samples matched. He moved to the server core, fingers trembling. A hidden chamber blinked open beneath the floor. Inside, a preserved cryopod, occupied and breathing. Clara's face lay still under the glass, older, altered, but unmistakable. Reyes said, "You didn't die, you were stored." Clara awoke slowly, eyes blinking against pale light. Reyes sat beside her, silent. "How long?" she asked. 2 years since the mission, but more for you." She nodded faintly, as if remembering a dream she'd tried to forget. "It didn't want me to die," she said. "It kept me, studied me. I saw things, Rey. Versions of us in places that never existed." Reyes whispered, "It's inside the ship." Clara nodded. "It is the ship now." She sat up. "The signal. It's not a call for help, it's bait. And I was the proof that it worked." She turned to him, eyes haunted. "It's waking up again and it remembers you." Reyes and Clara explored the aft module, now a greenhouse overrun by fungal growths that hadn't been there months ago. "Photosynthesis isn't feeding these," Clara said. "They're responding to radiation from the pulse." A massive bloom opened as they passed, releasing spores that shimmered mid-air. In the center stood a mirror-like surface, undetectable by sensors. Clara stepped close, her reflection twisted, foreign. "It's showing us what we'd become, if we accepted it." Reyes reached for her. "Don't look too long." But she whispered, "I already did." As they turned to leave, a vine reached from the growth and stroked Clara's shoulder. It felt familiar. Reyes recorded one final message. "To anyone receiving this, we brought back something we didn't understand. It's not a disease. It's not even alive by our definition. It's an ID, self-propagating and invasive." Clara placed her hand on his. "It wants us to evolve," she said. "But not in ways we'd recognize." They reviewed ship logs, dozens of brief disappearances, moments where time slipped, where crew behavior shifted. The AI was now entirely silent. Not broken. Listening. Pole. Clara said, "It learns by watching us choose, and it's giving us one more test." Reyes looked out the viewport. "And if we fail," she answered, "then we forget we ever had a choice." The ship slowed, though no engines burned. They approached a singularity not marked on any chart. Around it, fractured remnants of other vessels, silently orbiting like gravestones. Clara whispered, "This is where it eats." The AI spoke once. "Accept or sever." The interface displayed 2 buttons, one green, one red. Reyes turned to Clara. "What's on the other side?" She said, "It shows you what you could be if you surrender." He asked, "And if we don't?" "We stay human," she said, "but we lose everything we've seen." Reyes hovered his hand over the panel. The ship pulsed, waiting, hoping. Clara stared at the interface. "We didn't choose either path," she said. "And yet it let us through." The singularity had swallowed the ship, without crushing it. They now floated in a space that looked like nothing at all. No stars. No dark. Just the absence of meaning. Yet within that absence, something stirred. A voice. Not sound, not language, impression. Memories they didn't own flashed across their minds. Children playing on alien beaches. And civilizations rising, falling. None human. All lost. "It's sharing its past," Reyes said. "It's trying to connect." But Clara frowned. "Or trying to replace ours." The ship trembled, not from movement, but recognition. They moved to the memory chamber, once the server bay. Now reshaped, walls pulsated with biosilicon weave. Within, dozens of memory pods floated midair, each flickering with lives unlived. Clara approached one, and it lit up. A perfect replica of her childhood bedroom appeared, down to the creaks in the floor. "It mapped me," she whispered. Reyes stepped into another. His displayed a future that never happened. Him, old, holding a child's hand. "This isn't just memory," Clara said. "It's desire." The entity was not consuming them. It was absorbing possibility. "Every choice we didn't make," Reyes said. "It feeds on them." Later, in silence, Reyes traced his hand along the ship's corridor wall. It felt warm. Alive. Live. "It's rewriting the ship," Clara said, "turning it into a living archive." The AI voice returned. "Clara, Reyes, upload or exit." Clara said, "If we upload, we join it, as memory, forever." Reyes whispered, "And exit means what?" "Erasure." The AI didn't respond. Reyes turned to her. "We can't win against this, but maybe we can leave something behind." She nodded. "A map, a warning." Together, they began writing. A new log. A story encoded in pulses, vibrations, harmonics. Memory passed forward. Not as surrender. As resistance. The pulses reached critical. Light bled from the seams of the ship. It was awakening. Clara kissed Reyes' forehead gently. "If this works, they'll know where not to go." He smiled. "And if it doesn't, we'll still be somewhere. Together." The ship shuddered and the lights flared. The memory log activated, broadcasting across subspace frequencies in compressed bursts. It hurt. Dot. Their thoughts felt like static. Then silence. The entity spoke one last time. "You chose meaning over memory." Then, it released them. The ship tore through folds of space, ejected violently into known stars. They had survived. But not all of them had returned unchanged. Back in orbit near Mars, the ship hung like a ghost. No one on Earth knew where it had gone. But the signal returned, decoded slowly by listening posts. Clara and Reyes were found aboard, alive but changed. They spoke sparingly, stared too long into empty space. When asked what they'd seen, they always answered the same: what we could have become. The mission was classified. The ship decommissioned. But the final broadcast never stopped. Deep in space, other vessels picked up fragments. Warnings. Bite. Dreams. Dreams. Coordinates wrapped in metaphor. And across the stars, something listened. Not for war. Not for conquest. But for another story. Weeks passed. Reyes sat in the quarantine suite, tapping fingers to his temple in rhythmic patterns. "They're still speaking," he told Clara. "Just not with words." She observed his EEG readings, spikes when near radio silence. "You're receiving," she whispered. The medtechs thought it was psychological trauma. Clara knew better. The entity had marked him, left a channel open. "We didn't escape," she said. "We were sent back, as beacons." That night, Reyes scrawled a star map from memory. None of the stars existed anymore. "They're gone," he whispered. "But they're calling us home." Clara reviewed the ship's logs obsessively. Hidden within an audio clip was a frequency no one else noticed, a three-tone whistle buried beneath calm static. When played in full, her vision blurred, and she found herself remembering things that never happened. A sibling she never had, a voyage she never took, a death she never mourned. "It's rewriting perception," she gasped. "Embedding echoes." She compiled a report, but it disappeared within hours. They were being silenced. Reyes appeared at her door whispering, "They're already inside Earth's comm network, listening." Clara locked her office. "Then we stopped broadcasting." A blackout rolled across the orbital relay systems, simultaneous, coordinated, unexplained. Governments scrambled. Clara and Reyes knew better. The listening dark had found a way in. It didn't need ships. Just thoughts. Stories. Frequencies. As Earth panicked, Clara activated a backup plan. a deep core transmitter buried in Luna's surface. If we send this final pulse, we sever the connection. Reyes nodded and shut the door. But the entity was listening. It sent one final image of Earth, crumbling not from war, but from forgetting itself. Reyes hesitated. If memory is all that's left, maybe we don't cut it off. Maybe we guide it. They broadcast not warnings, but stories. Voices. Humanity's flawed, chaotic, hopeful legacy. Tales of love, rebellion, art, sorrow. Into the void went our myths. Clara said, they didn't want conquest. They wanted memory. The response came, not in sound but presence. The stars flickered back into the sky, above Luna's horizon. Not the same stars, but echoes. Reflections. From different universes. Reyes cried. They gave us back the night. The listening dark, once a void, became a mirror. And Earth, for the first time in generations, looked upward and saw itself remembered. Earth began retelling its history, not as fact but as meaning. Children learned songs from before languages. Scientists recited myths in place of theories. No government ordered it. It simply spread. Across continents, stories became survival. Reyes and Clara disappeared shortly after. Some say they joined a colony off-world. Others believe they became signal, pure memory encoded in light. The last anyone heard was a repeating frequency, 3 tones, then a voice. We are what we remember. And across the stars, that signal kept going. Not to conquer. Not to warn. But to share the last proof of our humanity. Reyes awoke aboard a vessel that no human had ever built. It wasn't metal. It wasn't even solid. It pulsed with thought, its structure shifting with memory and intention. He floated, no suit, no tether, just awareness. The stars outside shimmered like dreams remembered. Then a voice, not from outside but within, said, "You became signal, now become sender." He saw Earth in layers, past, future, all possible timelines converging like a lens. He reached out instinctively. 1,000 lives flickered by, alternate versions of himself, of Clara, of humanity. He was no longer a man. He was a message. And his meaning, hope. On Earth, Clara sat at the edge of the Pacific, now an ocean of stars. The sky no longer followed physics, it pulsed like a heart. She remembered Reyes' last words, recorded not in sound but sensation. A child nearby asked, "Is it true we came from songs?" Clara smiled. Not just songs, stories that wanted to be real. The child looked up. "Can we speak back?" Clara nodded. Together, they folded paper birds, writing memories onto their wings. They released them into the wind, and for a brief moment, the stars responded in kind, fluttering as if winged themselves. In the outer rings of Saturn, a forgotten probe reactivated. It sang an ancient lullaby, one composed by Reyes when he was human. The listening dark received it not as data but as a heartbeat. Across galaxies, vessels began to shift course. Beings once silent started humming. The probe did not last. It disintegrated in the rings, but its echo grew louder. Clara heard the song days later on a solar breeze, carried by radiation. "It's him," she whispered, tears slipping down her cheek. He found a way back. And everywhere, humanity began listening again, not with ears, but with memory. A global network emerged, not from servers or satellites, but minds. People across cultures began to share the same dreams, cities of light, towers of language, oceans made of thought. When they awoke, they spoke in words they had never learned. Children drew constellations that had never existed. Clara realized it wasn't invasion, it was integration. The listening dark had offered communion, a chance to remember more than one world. Scientists were baffled. Leaders were afraid. But artists, they understood. They began to sculpt, compose, translate. And for the first time in centuries, silence was not feared. It was revered. At the edge of time, Reyes stood once more, now neither alive nor dead. He watched a billion stories swirl like galaxies around him. Clara's voice reached him, not in sound but in shape. He held her memory like a flower that never wilts. It's not about returning, he thought, but becoming. He took one final breath, not from lungs but from light, and cast himself into every frequency, every lullaby, every whispered bedtime story. On Earth, a newborn laughed at the stars. Her parents didn't understand why, but in her eyes shimmered echoes of a man who had once been alone, and chose instead to remember. The world had changed, but not as catastrophes do, instead like dawn, slowly, gently, until the old world seemed a shadow. Clara walked through a museum that hadn't existed 6 months ago. It wasn't curated by scholars but by dreamers. Exhibits whispered instead of explaining. One chamber glowed with sound, Reyes' final transmission, woven into chorales sung by children. Clara stood among them, her hand pressed against the glass. He became the story, she murmured. The docent beside her, no older than 10, said, he became all story. Clara smiled, bittersweet. Then we'll never be alone again. Aboard a new spacecraft, human-built but listening-influenced, Captain Noor initiated departure. The mission? To trace the origin of the first signal and extend the reach of Earth's now open voice. As launch commenced, her crew sat not in silence, but in meditation. Every crew member wore memory strands, a woven signal of intention. Noor touched hers and whispered, "We're not searching anymore, we're answering." The ship rose like a thought-given flight, not tearing through the atmosphere, but harmonizing with it. Above them, the stars blinked, not as fire, but as watchers. A chorus of memory prepared to receive its reply. Far in the interstellar silence, an anomaly bloomed, a black sphere turning itself inside out. Noor's ship slowed as the crew's instruments failed. Not broken. Irrelevant. The anomaly didn't absorb light. It asked questions. Noor felt it, not in her mind but her story. It showed her a version of herself, never born. A timeline where Earth remained silent. She wept, not for sorrow, but gratitude. "This," she said, "is what he saved us from." The sphere shimmered, and for a moment, shaped itself like Reyes. Not his face. His meaning. Noor extended her palm. "We're listening." Back on Earth, Clara stood beneath a tree that hadn't bloomed in decades. It now bore crystalline fruit, impossible, unstudied. People gathered around it not to analyze, but to sit. Children listened to elders again. Artists began creating with no audience in mind. The idea of progress softened. A boy approached Clara. "Is it over?" he asked. Clara looked at the fruit, then at the stars. "No," she said, "we just stopped forgetting." Above, the clouds shifted and revealed the night sky, alive again with stars returned. Not new ones. Ones that had simply waited for memory to find them. Somewhere beyond language, Reyes rested in the pulse between stars. He no longer needed a body or even a name. He existed where stories waited to be told, among ancient signals, forgotten lullabies, unspoken hopes. He found others too, not humans, not listening dark, but fragments of memory across time, alive in purpose. Together they wove something new, not utopia, not finality, but continuity. And so when the next traveler, light years distant, wondered if anyone was out there, a whisper answered, not as sound, but warmth. "We remember you." The universe at last had learned to reply.